Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Steel Beast Beginner's Guide, and boy, it has been a while. What we want to talk about today is the basics of conditioned routes. And what this means is that we're going to use tools within the game to simplify the execution of complex maneuvers. If you check out page 119 of the Steel Beast manual, this is talking about conditioned routes. It identifies this as being the key behind complex unit movement. Scenario designers are going to be familiar with the process, but I would say that players for Steel Beast should be familiar with the basics of this. And the reason why is, first off, it's going to simplify the workload of you as the player when you're controlling multiple units. This comes in handy when you're at a company echelon or above. And then it's going to free you up to concentrate on more important things. So as opposed to say, for example, moving your logistics train, you've already automated that entire portion. So now you can focus on instead calling in indirect fire missions and moving your tank platoons into the perfect position to get a good flank attack going on. Before we get into showing you how to actually start doing conditioned routes, we're going to talk about 3 limitations that I can see from it. First off, you can only build these within the planning phase. Which we're currently in. So if you click start and enter the execution phase, this logic is not going to work. So bear that in mind. Number 2, it's going to take time to actually build all this out, and there is a little bit of a learning curve. The good news is that if you understand Boolean logic, you're going to pick this up pretty quickly. If you don't, I recommend looking up Boolean logic. It's pretty simple to understand, and it's going to help you in knowing better how to perform some of these actions that we're going to show you. And finally, right, when we place in waypoints, and if you break that link during execution, it's going to break the logic chain. So for example, if I have first platoon move to waypoint 1 and the conditioned route embark if condition is that second platoon will move once first platoon reaches waypoint 1, and they never reach waypoint 1, then second platoon is never going to move. Okay, great. Now let's break this down into actual execution. And what I want to do here that's pretty basic is a couple of commands that I want the computer to completely automate. So I'm pressing a button to begin the sequence, and then the entire sequence carries out. And what that is first off, I want to move this tank platoon kind of here and establish an overwatch position, and also have second platoon, our mech infantry platoon, move forward and pre-stage. And I want to do that with one single click to initiate that movement. Once first platoon's established an overwatch position, I want our helicopter here to move forward, land, drop off troops, our troops to go to OPs 1 and 2 with one team at each respectively, and our helicopter to fly off station. Once our helicopter deploys troops, I want second platoon to then move forward, establish an overwatch position, and what I'll also do is showcase to you guys a retreat if condition. So once these guys establish overwatch here, they're going to basically bound forward, and once this platoon moves into position, the retreat if condition route is going to be activated, and they're going to move backwards. I'm mentioning routes a lot in here, and I've covered those briefly in a previous video. I'm not really going to go into an explanation here for this video. If you want to know more, look at the manual on page 112 for the specifics. So my sequence for building this out is to start with a framework. So as we said, first platoon, we want them to move forward and ultimately set up an overwatch here. So we'll start at that position, put that in there, give it a stay. Cool, awesome. And then we'll build in another waypoint here. I'll go give them an engage. And then from there, move forward using a march command to go to waypoint 2. One of the things you can also do once you put down a route is if you hit the shift key, you can actually add additional little meshes there so that you're better able to guide. And if, say, you accidentally add an extra one that you didn't want, and it's all wonky like that, as opposed to deleting the entire route, you can hold down the control key, click, and get it back to where you actually want it in that area itself. Now, we've already said that we want these guys to move forward with one command, so what I'm going to do is set this to embark if. This is how we do conditioned routes. and I'm going to use trigger 1 is set. What this means is that once we get in game, if we press Shift and F, Shift and 1, or go to trigger and select trigger 1, Unit 1 is now going to move. But we wanted second platoon to maneuver at the same time, so we'll give them a march route, move into this position here, put them at stay, embark if, trigger 1 is set. So now if we hit trigger 1, both of these units are going to move forward. And we know that we want these guys to get into an overwatch position, and we'll do a bit of logic there for the embark if after we go ahead and program in the helo here. So to build this out, we already know we want them to move here. We want them to dismount troops. That's pretty easy. And we want one set of troops to move to OP1, another set of troops to move to OP2, and we want our helicopter to go off station. Now, what we've got here is 3 separate march routes all coming from the same waypoint. To differentiate these and to tell each individual unit where to go, we go into embark if. This unit is, and we can select the unit, so we'll do Bravo team from this helo to go to OP number 2. We will go with Alpha team from that helo to go to OP number 1. And then embark if unit this is the helicopter itself. And now effectively all of these units are going to end up at waypoint 5, but each of them is now given a conditioned route to understand where they're moving to. And you can go in here and set them to, specific tactics once they arrive at their actual location. That's all cool. All right, now one of the things that we said that we wanted to do is once this tank reaches its overwatch position, this is going to cause 1 Bravo to embark. A method to do that is to go to embark if. We can go unit 1 Alpha has reached waypoint 1. Great. However, what I talked about earlier is that we got into, or there's the possibility that based on the tactical situation, maybe waypoint 1 isn't where we want our tanks. Maybe we want them slightly more forward, slightly more back, maybe in this vicinity here. And so if they don't actually go to the waypoint, we're now going to have to manually control this helicopter moving forward. So a best practice and something that I like to do is go to new graphic, build some sort of area. You can make sure you turn the info to all so you can actually edit the name of the text. And you can name this whatever. I'm going to call it Overwatch. And now what we can do is go in and give a bit more detailed information here. So as opposed to unit 1 Alpha reaching waypoint 1, we can go into, let's say, operational friendly forces in region 3 Overwatch. Since we've named it, are greater than 0, then that'll execute. However, we could do armored fighting vehicles where it's either tanks or PCs in Overwatch, but we want it just to be tanks. So once any tank enters this region here, and it's greater than the number 0, this is going to embark and unload at waypoint number 5. And we said that we wanted our mech infantry to move forward once these guys have dismounted. So a way to do that, again, embark if unit, and we'll go to 1 Bravo, detailing the helicopter, is not carrying troops. So as soon as they drop off their troops, these guys are going to embark to waypoint number 4 and establish an overwatch in that vicinity. Now, dropping off troops does take a little bit of time, so we can build in a delay to account for that. I'll give it like 20 seconds. So once 1 Bravo unloads its troops, 20 seconds later, 2 Alpha is going to embark on this route and move to waypoint number 4 there. And the final thing I wanted to cover is we talk about retreat if conditions. I'll just put out some route here. So retreat back if. Where this is useful in game is if you're moving an element forward, say you're scouting and you're sending a tank platoon. And if they see more than 3 enemy tanks, for example, they're going to retreat back. And what this means is that as they're executing this route, If they happen to see 3 tanks, they're then going to halt execution of this route and move back to their previous waypoint, in this case being waypoint 1. There's no enemies in this scenario, so we're going to do the simple condition here of Unit 2 has reached waypoint 4. Again, we could go into Overwatch and showcase how, if we use the condition of a certain number of PCs or in Overwatch, it executes that, but you get the idea. So what should happen is when we execute this, we should be able to activate trigger 1. These 2 platoons are going to move forward. Once first platoon reaches this region of Overwatch, 1 Bravo is going to move forward, drop off troops. Troops are going to move to OP 1 and 2. 1 Bravo is going to go off station. 20 seconds after they start disembarking troops, 2 Alpha is going to execute their route here, establish an Overwatch, which is then going to cause 1 Alpha while they're moving on this route to move backwards. We go ahead and set this at slow speed just so we don't have any possibility of getting to the end of it. All right, let's go ahead and execute and see this work in action. So I'm using the editor view here, but again, this works in just the regular single player game. I just want to do this to give you guys more of a viewpoint. So when we press Shift and 1, these 2 guys are going to immediately move without us having to do anything else. And we can see there, 2nd platoon, 1st platoon are now executing movement to their respective waypoints. And we'll go ahead and speed this up here, because again, they're just driving forward. And once they hit Overwatch, that's going to cause 1 Bravo to activate. And of course, 2 Alphas in position. These guys are going to move forward. And down here, should get it triggered. Yep, 1 Bravo is moving to waypoint number 5. Let's go in and watch that. So our MI8 moves forward. It's then going to drop off troops. Each of the teams is going to go to a specific OP as specified while the helicopter goes off station. Then 20 seconds later, 2 Alpha is going to move forward. Have these guys land. Okay, at this point, we can start doing a 20-second count. All right, troops have disembarked. As you can see, they're starting to move to their OPs. And now we've got 2 Alpha executing their movement. They're going to move into an engage route. And of course, while that's occurring, these guys are bounding forward. And what should happen is as soon as 2 Alpha reaches checkpoint 4, they're going to, we'll go ahead and go here and see how their behavior is. So again, they're bounding forward. 2 Alpha is going to report that they reach their checkpoint. And then 1 Alpha is going to start retreating back to waypoint number 1. And they're going to do the basic retreat route. Again, you can look at that in the manual on page 112 about how that actually works. But again, as you can see, we did all of these movements by simply pressing Shift and 1, and we didn't have to control any of that. So, in conclusion with this video, first off, we've talked about what conditioned routes actually are and why you as a player should learn them. We've spoken about some of its limitations. Again, you can only use this in the planning phase. It takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit of learning, and also if you break some of these waypoint conditions, you're going to break the logic chain. And then I've shown you how to do some of the basics here. So first off, I hope this video, 1, gave you an understanding of very simple conditioned routes and how they can work to simplify complex maneuvers. Hope you saw some value in using this. If you want to see this actually in action during a live scenario, check out my video Operation Pathfinder. And hey, thanks for watching and have a good one.